Hey folks, welcome to this training on business fundamentals for aspiring new and serial entrepreneurs. Basically, if you don't know all the parts of the business, what they do and how they work, you can't build a decent business. So I know there's a lot of courses and programs talking about particular parts of business, but I just wanted to throw something out there in the ether to make sure that people have a firm grounding in all of it. So it's like, if you want to build a car, you have to know about the engines, the lights, the steering columns, all of the parts and how they work together. But if you want to learn how to do a business, you need to figure out all those parts. The main three departments are marketing, finance, and production. They go by different names in different businesses, but we wanted to highlight, or I wanted to highlight some of those and go through them in a good bit of detail so you get a firm understanding of what a business is, how it works. Yeah, so let's get into that. So, my name is Byron Woodson. I am from, own a business called Keystone Organizing Systems. And, I like reading a whole lot. So, half of this is for the Escher Cycle by Finn Jackson, half of this for a model I call the Keystone Business Matrix. The Escher Cycle is a book written by Finn Jackson that I think is just one of the greatest business books of all time. And it really goes into all of the parts of the business, how they work together and so forth. And then I've elaborated, so we start with that and then I've elaborated some more stuff. All right. So let's get into, all right. So we are, just a review of things we'll cover, why this is important, what you're going to get out of this, etc. So first we're going to cover what entrepreneurs should be able to do. There's a couple skills that we need. And without knowing the business fundamentals, you're going to fail at a couple of things. So we'll go over that, and then we'll discuss the consequences of not knowing those. So it's just you're going to fail at these, and then these things you cannot get done or won't be able to get done. So we'll go through that. And to alleviate and fix all of that, we're going to talk about the main functions and parts of a business. There's a nice little sequence that we're going to go and build from the ground up. And we're going to review the Escher Cycle, the Keystone Business Matrix, and then we're going to do a little outro. All right. So an entrepreneur should be able to understand how their business relates to stakeholders and the market. So, normally people talk about stakeholders when they're talking about large corporations. You have, lots of people vying for attention from the business, including the government, customers, the market in general, and, investors and suppliers. So we'll talk about that. We'll figure out how those three things, or three groups, are coordinated by the business. We'll understand how the different parts of a business work, and we're going to talk about once you understand how the parts of a business work, then you can start measuring and improving the business, figure out how well it's doing at its core functions, and then improve them over time. So what business fundamentals without business fundamentals, you don't know knowledge of each parts of business. Just like you can't be a architect without understanding walls and floors. How each of the parts affects the other part of the business. So we have marketing. How does that affect sales, and how does that affect revenue generation and actual revenue itself? How does that affect the production and how all those work together? The three main departments do. So there's marketing, there's production, and finance, and how they serve a role in a business, and the stages of thinking, planning, and operating in a business. So, different models. You have design, build, operate. Some models are, I guess you could call it design, develop, and deliver. The three stages. How strategies, tactics, and actions work, and then we'll also, or you won't be able to understand what a strategy is, how to implement it, what tactics is, and what's the difference between an action. And you won't know how to design a business, you won't know how to build a business, and you won't know how to run a business. So you have to learn all of these things. Sorry for being kind of fatalistic, right? And what the consequences of not knowing those things, I'll just read a couple of them. You can't forecast sales, production, or revenue. There's inconsistent production. You can't market or sell your products and services. You don't know what to do next during the week or the month or the quarter. And, you don't have any systems set up to run without you. Like, this is a bad situation. So we're going to fix that with a nice, easy to understand, and gets progressively more sophisticated understanding of the different parts of the business. Now, This slide is intentionally left blank because before I hit you with the big complex things, I'm just going to kind of build this from the ground up. So there's a person, they want to build a business, right? Because people, it all starts with people. So there's the owner, there's the operator, or the franchisee that wants to have a business that sells things to people or companies and use people, including themselves, to figure out how to turn that money into the services that they were promised or that they promised their customers, and then how to keep some of that for themselves with their financials and whatnot. And so what the business does is it relates to specific or three types of people. So there's customers, owners, and suppliers. Now, there's of course the government, but for the most part, a business mostly focuses their attention on customers, owners, and suppliers. So the customers are the people that might be interested in their services that they are offering. The suppliers are the people that they get supplies from. So this may be office space, this may be the computer peripherals that they use, this may be employees. So we can kind of employ or consider supply employees to be in-house suppliers. And then we also have owners or investors, people that actually own, part of the intellectual property, the actual property of the business, and so forth. Okay, so that's the business ecosystem. So we have a business and relating, or the people in the business in relation to the different stakeholders that they have. And then each business has 3 goals and 3 functions. So the goal of a business is like, these are the things that you achieve: is you satisfy the needs of your customers, you make money from your customers, and you use resources from suppliers for your customers, right? And what we generally call these are marketing, production, and finance. They have different terms. You might, revenue generation, operations, and accounting. Just anything dealing with money, anything dealing with customers, and anything dealing with suppliers and production. Those are the 3 main goals and functions of a business. If you can't satisfy customer needs, well, you're going out of business. If you can't use resources appropriately, well, you're going out of business. And if you can't make money, if you're constantly losing money, then you can't build a business. All right. So we have the ecosystem and the 3 functions and goals of a business. And those, okay. So we talked about the functions. And then we have the interactions or stages. Let's go to interactions of the business. So before we get into more words about what's going on. So the business of the business, when they use resources, they tell suppliers what they need and give them money, and then they get the supplies. So when a business wants, what they do is they advertise and say, hey, I want to be able to supply you this. So the customers come in and give them money, and the business then gives them, delivers the goods or the product or the services that they have. And for, the money making aspect, we have, you're paying the owners if it's a profitable business, or you're receiving money from the owners if it's an investment or something like that. And then that's how the flow of money, I guess, through a business. The owners create money or install money to buy supplies to satisfy customers. And then what you do is you put some of that back into the business, and then there's your circle or the Escher Cycle. And, the better you get at each of these, the better you'll get at the whole business. You got to balance before you get it. Okay. So now what happens is, as a business, what you do is you choose your customers, you choose your investors, and you choose your suppliers. So, are you going to get a Dell computer, or are you going to get an iMac? Are you going to buy Photoshop, or are you going to get GIMP? You're going to do open source software, or you're going to use proprietary software. You're going to build a server yourself, or you're going to host your app on the internet. Lots of questions. Do you need to get rental space, or are you going to own the space? So that's a lot of questions about how you own, what you buy, how frequently you buy, and that's what happens. So when that's choosing your suppliers, right? So when you choose your customers, you may find that you're originally aiming at mid-career women, and then you pivot to mid-career men because they responded to your messaging a little bit more than mid-career women. So you say, okay, I'm going to pivot and aim my attention at them, or vice versa. And that's what happens. You choose your customers. You might find that you don't like them at all, and you just want to throw up your hands and then, go aim at teenagers who like gadgets, right? Fidget spinners. So that's the business you create. So you choose your customers, and then once your customers tell you what you want, then you figure out what suppliers you have, and then you figure out, can you buy it in a particular volume, and then once you have it in that volume, then it's a lot cheaper price. So you have, there's a lot of complexities going there, and basically it goes in a cycle. So you produce things for the marketing pays you, and that then allows you to buy more things for the market and so forth. You buy better marketing, you get more money, you cut costs, so then you are be able, you can get more things to produce at a lower price and a higher profit margin, etc. So that's some of the behaviors of a business. Okay, so now we're going to go into the relationship between these things, and I'm going to break each individual one down. Like, so what we were talking about before is the market itself and all of the things you do in a business, and now we're going to start talking and all the things you do in a business in relation to the market. And so now what we're going to do is talk about the internals of the business. All right, so the first slide, we're just going to realize that in the marketing department, what you're trying to do is find a set of customers for who you can satisfy their needs, right? In order to do that, you have to understand the demand that they want, what specifics they have. Do they want a very slim phone, or do they want a phone with a longer battery life? And then whatever they choose, and whatever products you create, right? Then you deliver that product or service to them. And so what's happening is when they pay, when they shell out the money, you receive revenue for services. Okay, cool. Now, when you're doing that in the marketing department, there are three main stages. The first is position and promote, where you decide what customers you have and how your product solves the set of needs that they have. So they might need a t-shirt for a weekend event, but printed up with a special logo. So you are advertising, or you're telling people, hey, I do custom t-shirts, right? And you promote that. You have advertisements, you put it on the side of your car, you put it on a billboard, you tell your family, friends, and fans, and you just promote that you have that service. Okay. And that's just a very general stage, right? Now, in this stage, what you're doing is you're trying to figure out what's going to work, right? And then once you figure out a particular message that you have for a particular ideal customer, then you can move into segment and funnel, where you say, okay, so my ideal customers are on these marketing channels. So everybody, people that drive see billboards a lot. People that ride buses, not so much. So maybe you're aiming at drivers. Definitely a driving billboard will work. If you're aiming at people in social media marketing, of course, you have to go to social media. If you're aiming at people that go to trade shows, you have to go to trade shows. So, what happens is you figure out where pockets of your people are, and you try to, promote to them. And that's what segment is. Segment is figuring out where these different people are located and what media channel that they have. And once you've identified that, then you get them in a funnel. And the funnel, what it says is, it's like the advertisement. It's the sequence of the advertisement, the landing page, or the marketing materials, and the buy. So let's just keep it simple. So the funnel is the sequence of steps, or the customer's journey from not knowing about your service to knowing about your service. Okay. And then while you're doing all of that, at each step, you have to package your services saying, hey, I'm offering this. And then you present it in, whatever marketing materials. That might be a blog post, that might be an Etsy store, or that might be on, a LinkedIn ad or something. So, those are all of the kind of things happening in marketing. And these allow you to, them interacting with your marketing allows you to understand your demand and, deliver better services. All right, cool. So what we have over here is using resources. So basically what you do is you get supplies and you pay for supplies. And you choose which suppliers you have. So just like you choose your customers, you also choose your suppliers. If you are just, let's say you want to sell some hot dogs on the weekend, you might go to the grocery store, or you might have a membership to a warehouse. So, like BJ, Sam's Club, yeah, Costco or whatever. So you might go buy, 48 hot dogs, a couple cases of those and the buns and whatnot because it's cheaper at the wholesale club than it is at, and then you go sell that. So, or you might have, you might already be in business and you're getting a couple hundred hot dogs. And so instead of just sending them to your kitchen, you're going to take them on a cart, right? So you choose your suppliers, you pay for the supplies, get surprised. And what happens from the perspective of business is when you as a business, those are business expenses, right? So what you have is expenses in exchange for services. So in this side, it's services or products that you will then use to create, what's going on, or the type of thing that you provide for your customers. Cool. All right. Now, so the first step in providing and producing stuff is you have to design and research what it is that you're going to sell. It might be the design of a book bag. So you might just put an imprint on a book bag, or you might go further and figure out the different stitching that you want and contact the manufacturer and change something to create a larger book bag for smaller people, or a smaller book bag for taller people, etc. So basically you look at your suppliers, you figure out who can do what manufacturers there are, what raw materials, and that's like the design and research level. And then once you start to figure out that, then you can go into the organize and supply, where you're talking to, you get into a longer conversation with this particular manufacturer. And in-house, it might be you hiring somebody to do a certain set of functions for you. So, it might be your graphic designer, it might be, your salesperson. So this is kind of, both internally oriented and externally oriented. So you start organizing and supplying things. So you say, hey, I want these sets of things from these suppliers in order to give these services. And then once you get them, you take them, and then you go down to the next level, which is make and deliver. So, you might use your software in order to create blueprints for an architect. You might use software to create pictures for your mom, right? To print out, and because she likes photo albums. So whatever happens is, the business buys supplies from the supplier. They use them to make and deliver the services to the customers. And then in Prosper, basically you try to balance the fact that you're spending money and making money, and or bringing in money, and you want to bring in more money than you are spending, and that's how you make money or earn money, whatever you want to call it. So in this situation, what happens is the business calls the money that they get revenue or sales, and the money that they kick out as expenses. So what's going to happen here is the owner raises capital to make a little initial pot of money to buy services that are then sold to the customers, who pay the money, and then it goes back into this pot, and then they pay for capital. And so that there might it might be a business loan, or it might be stock, right? So those are different ways that an investor or a lender can put money into in a business. Yeah. All right. And then so what happens is, from the business owner's perspective, you as an entrepreneur, you're going to figure out, who owns what and how much can you profit. So you definitely have to figure out the cost of your services and marketing and so forth, and the goods and all the stuff you do, in order to figure out how much to charge, right? It's pricing. And then pricing you try to set to make sure that you get enough money to, pay the bills of the business, pay your own bills, and put a little aside for the growth of the business, the growth of the marketing, and the growth of your own pockets, right? So a lot of the conversations there are you going to buy something outright, or are you going to rent it? So if you're a cab, are you going to buy the car outright, or are you going to lease it, because you don't have the money up front, but leasing it, what'll happen is it'll pay a little over, and then maybe by the end of the lease, you'll pay the car off, and then you'll have you have your car that you can use perpetually after, the lease is ended. And then you'll make a whole lot more money because you're no longer paying the lease. Same with software. You can buy something to download on your computer, put it on your server, or you can rent a service from somebody like Facebook, who provides the service of connecting with a lot of people, and which is a lot easier to do on Facebook than on your home computer that has spotty Wi-Fi, right? So the decisions of an owner is what are you going to buy is become an asset of the business, and what are you going to rent that or and stuff like that. And then when you figure out that suite of things, you start to contract an account with people. So you go into every transaction is an implied contract. So for government organizations, they might have RFPs in order to go into a contract with a particular vendor, and they have to set up accounts. In addition to the banking accounts for both, they have to set accounts with each other to say, hey, we're in this type of agreement. And that's what happens when you create an account. You go into an agreement with the using terms and privacy practices of the website. That happens when you create an account, when you visit, through cookies, etc. And then, you do the same with your customers. So if you have a website, they buy from your website through, whether it's Wix or Stripe or PayPal. They have an account with them, and then they put the money in the intermediary account, which is your PayPal account, and then you transfer that into your other account, and that's what happens. So a lot of money goes from account to account to account. A lot of it can be cash, and then if you are a food truck, right? There's going to be a lot of cash. You might have Stripe also. And then what happens on a day-to-day basis, you pay and receive. So, when somebody drops off a pallet of goods for you, you pay them right there, or you transfer their money to the account or all of that stuff. So somebody pays, somebody receives. And that's the day-to-day aspects of the finances of the business. Okay, cool. So that's that's it, right? So the Escher Cycle talks about the things that people need to do in a business in relation to the market, and I break that a little further. It's talking about the different divisions. So we have marketing or market, produce, and finance, and the different things that you do inside of those departments. Cool. In addition, there are a ways to think about what are the changes from vertical down horizontal. From what I call this level is the design level. Down here we have the build level, and down here we have the operate level. Design is kind of nebulous, so it's a lighter color, and it's a darker color down here because darker seems I guess more real. So what's happening is we kind of talk about this as thinking, planning, and acting. So every day, what's happening is you're sending out marketing materials, you're putting stamps and decent handwriting on letters, you're making whatever goods and services that you have to make for your customers, then you deliver them and pay a receipt. So that's all of the stuff happening every day, right? And then what happens is monthly or quarterly, what you can do is figure out what's happening for the next few months. So do you need to open up a new account with a new vendor? Do you need to switch bank accounts? Are your accounts up to date? All of that stuff that you don't think about every day, but you should put in your schedule monthly, and then yearly, at least, probably quarterly, you should kind of take a big audit or assessment of what are the things happening in each of the departments from a very, high level about what you want to do for the next quarter or the next year or next few years, right? Okay. And then there's the Escher Cycle, just an example with all of the words explaining what each part does. And cool. So what I hope you now understand how the parts of a business work together. And then with this information, you can sit down and analyze and figure out how different businesses work. And you're also able to assess your own knowledge and experience with the different parts. Like you might be a whiz at marketing, but you're horrible at, accounting and, accounting for things. You might be great at the daily production of things, but you're not good at design. So what you can use this This four is to start thinking about, on a scale of one to what, what am I, on in profit. I think about these. I got these down. I have a finance degree. That might be a number 10. Some of that packages and presents, they might be a graphic designer making the prettiest websites ever. That's a number 10. So you have to figure out on the scale of what somebody might be doing as an expert level, how good are you at that, right? So that's what I meant, being able to assess your own knowledge and experience with different parts and use that to create a learning plan. So you might not be good at the packaging and presenting. So either hire that out where you hire a graphic designer, or you just spend a lot of hours figuring out, how to use different design systems. Right. Cool. I'm Byron Woodson. I am a pretty much of a, what do they call that? Swiss Army knife. So I do a lot of things in the marketing and technology space. So, I build websites. I can talk to you about positioning, building funnels across, advertising channels and so forth. But, if you're interested in talking to me about something I can do for you, you can book a call at kalangli.com/Byron-Woodson/30 minutes. And, we'll figure out what's going on. And you can check me out on Twitter at Keyorg Systems, IG at Keyorg Systems, and LI. You can also do Keyorg Systems, but that's the company. But the person, that's just me at Byron Woodson. And this has been a fantastic session on business fundamentals for aspiring new and serial entrepreneurs. Just a big review of all the parts of the business, what you have to do with those, and how you can get better. All right, you enjoy the rest of your day.